Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining us and welcome to CGTN special program on China's political season. I'm Zhong Shi. The National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, or CPPCC, China's top political advisory body, will hold a press conference this afternoon at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. And this comes ahead of the opening of its annual session on Monday. Spokesperson Liu Jieyi will brief the Chinese and foreign media and answer questions from journalists. CGTN will bring you live updates from the press conference later. And now joining me in our studio is Zhang Gong, Vice President of Research and Strategy at the University of International Business and Economics, Israel. Professor, welcome to our special program today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
All right, and for the very latest, let's check in with CGTN reporter Wu Bing standing by for us at the Great Hall of the People. Wu Bing, good afternoon to you. Talk to us about what we can expect from the press conference today.
Good afternoon to you, Zhong Shi. In less than 15 minutes, the press conference of the second plenary session of the 14th Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, known as CPPCC, China's top political advisory body, will start. The spokesperson will brief the Chinese and foreign media about the details of this year's agenda, and also they will tell us about the important work of the CPPCC in the past year, including how many proposals have been raised and how many proposals have been answered by relevant departments and how many proposals have become real policies of each department. And just now you've mentioned that the spokesperson is also expected to answer questions raised by Chinese and foreign media. We still don't know what questions will be raised, but let's take a look at the press conference last year. In 2023, in about over an hour, the spokesperson answered 12 questions covering a wide range of topics, especially focusing on CPPCC's role on China's economic performance, reform and opening up, the private sector's development, employment, and also construction on the Belt and Road Initiative. And this year, let's have a wild guess of some of the most anticipated topics. China's economic performance is no doubt the most anticipated one. How the CPPCC's their members are going to perform their duties to boost the country's economic development, and what are some of the challenges in 2024, and what are some of the economic outlook. Those are all very highly anticipated topics. And also China's reform and opening up efforts, how the country is going to step in towards institutional opening up and improve its business environment. And also a new term called new productive forces is also, we are expecting questions about this, how the country is going to improve its scientific and technology development. So in about 15 minutes, we'll get those answers from the press conference. Back to you, Zhong Shi.
All right, topics that concern people's livelihoods, the economy, to education, to employment, always dominate press conferences at this time. CGTN's Wu Bing with a sneak peek into the press conference later. Thank you so much, Wu Bing. And journalists from across the world are in Beijing for the upcoming two sessions. Among them is CGTN reporter Sean Calebs from Washington, D.C. He shares with us his stories on China and his expectations for the two sessions.
I've been 7 times to China, and I've been to more than 20 provinces and municipal areas, meaning I've spent time in Beijing, Chongqing, and those massive city-type places. But I've basically been all over. It is hard not to be in awe of one of China's latest engineering marvels. You know, I was amazed at how many I had, to be honest with you. No, this is Belt and Road. This is Belt and Road. So this was really kind of cool.
Some very positive news coming out between the United States and China.
This is the two sessions, 2018, that's before the pandemic.
Right. So this was interesting because this was the first time I went in the Great Hall, and it was, it's very historic. You look on the outside, and then you go in, and you could walk into where all the delegates sit, and you've seen the picture a million times, and then you see it in real life. This was the big movie studio where they have a replica of the Forbidden City, and it's insane how big the whole thing is. And we saw a massive performance there. and they were shooting 2 films, and we got to do stories on the films that they were shooting. The funny thing was, because we had a camera, and I'm very, very tall, and it's a very big tourist area. Yeah. A lot of the tourists thought I was an American actor, and they would come up and give me their baby and stand next to me and take pictures. I think, I'll go over to the corporate headquarters, which we call Big Pants for obvious reasons, and I'll meet some of the colleagues that I've worked with. Of course, I'll have to read up on 2 sessions because, there's going to be so much going on 2 sessions because they're looking for reform, they're looking for economic policies to lead them forward, and everybody's wondering what that's going to be.
The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference is the most powerful political advisory body here in China. Let's now take a look at what the CPPCC is and what its major functions are. The CPPCC is mainly responsible for political consultation, democratic supervision, and the deliberation and administration of state affairs. Specifically, it discusses major principles and policies proposed by the central and local governments. The CPPCC gives proposals on matters concerning political, economic, cultural, and social affairs. It supervises the implementation of the Constitution and the country's rules and regulations. It also conducts investigations and studies into social conditions and popular sentiments. Ding Mei, a member of the CPPCC, has dedicated the past 7 years to learn about how to improve the country's healthcare system. She'll be bringing up some crucial suggestions at this year's 2 sessions. CGTN reporter Huang Yue has the story.
China is experiencing a profound demographic shift as its population ages rapidly. It's estimated that by 2035, 30% of the country's total population will turn 60 years and above. Therefore, improving services for the elderly people has become an increasingly important issue in recent years.
CPPCC member Ding Mei is on a tight schedule these days, visiting hospitals to learn about infrastructure and equipment and talking to medical workers and senior patients. The goal of her field research is to gather information and suggestions about improving healthcare services for older patients, which she will deliver at this year's 2 sessions. The first thing she focuses on, how to make hospitals more senior-friendly.
就是因为你今天再建医院，你就要想到你未来服务的人群，一大半以上是老年人。
You have to understand that in the future, over half of the patients will be seniors. The newly built hospitals should take that into consideration at the very beginning of their designs, and the old hospitals should adjust as early as possible.
Digital equipment is developing rapidly, and seniors often feel lost when trying to register for appointments and other hospital services online.
挂号平台的整合，能不能在一个平台上？
Instead of each hospital having its own registration app, I suggest there should be one integrated platform in each city for patients to register at whatever hospital they want to go to. The user interface should be simple and clear, the characters larger, and the voiceover function added.
Ding says there's still a long way to go for China to strengthen research into geriatrics. But making it easier for seniors to access medical treatment is something hospitals can do little by little.
就比如说，我们原来都是先选哪个医院，再选哪个科。
Normally, when we register, we choose a department first. But many seniors don't understand which department they have to go to. They could just have headaches or feel dizzy. If we change the system and let them choose their symptoms, that would be a lot easier.
Ding says every family has seniors in it, and everyone eventually ages. She believes the efforts people put into senior care today will become a reward they eventually reap, securing a hopeful future for generations to come. Huang Yue, CGTN, Tianjin.
And now let's get more insights from my guest, Jiang Gong, here in the studio. Professor Gong, welcome to our special program today.
It's a great pleasure to be here.
2024 marks the 75th anniversary since the establishment of the CPPCC and, of course, since the founding of the People's Republic of China. How important, how significant are these milestones?
Well, 75 years is a long time. It's 3/4 of a century. And I think, the very fact that the CPPCC has been in existence together with the founding of the country for so many years is a testament to, China's, what we call the whole process democracy. This is indeed an integral part of China's political governance system here. And it's kind of a unique here, probably not so familiar to a lot of foreigners. But I think the fact of the matter is that this body, in addition to the things you just mentioned and the functions of the CPPC, I think one of the things that I also want to mention is that it's also essentially a part of, or plays partial role of a legislature. I mean, a lot of the proposals do make into the legislation and also do make into state policies, regulations, and decrees. So I think it's in that regard, it's very important. So I think after so many years, this body has been increasingly playing its important role in terms of governance of China, in terms of voicing people's opinions, reflecting people's opinions and ideas. And I think this is a very healthy thing that we are seeing.
I mean, you are an economist. You always watch out for everything economic, and obviously the economic performance of China is a huge topic at this year's two sessions, including will China be able to sustain that 5-ish% economic growth rate that we saw last year, which registered 5.2%. We have yet to find out the economic growth target this year from the two sessions. But just when we come down to the topic of the Chinese economy, how do you think this will be featured at the two sessions this year?
It's sort of like a national ritual, actually, that the annual goal, the economic GDP growth goal, will be announced during the two-session time. You mentioned that 5%, right? I bet it's going to be maybe even a little bit more optimistic. Maybe above. Last year was about 5%. That means that can be above or below, but eventually we get something that is above that. But I think this time probably, my bet is that might be a little bit more optimistic, probably shooting for something above 5%, and I think it's quite likely.
What is your optimism based on? Talk to us about some of the factors that have contributed to this optimistic outlook, at least for you. This is your personal prediction.
I think if you look at the statistics so far from the beginning of the year, especially during the Spring Festival, the expenditure numbers, the PMI numbers, these important economic indicators are slowly coming back. That's one thing. The second thing that I've been thinking about is the targets announced by each province. We have the habit, we have the tradition of each province will announce their economic performance target at the beginning of the year. And if you look at all these targets that have been announced so far, they actually overwhelming majority of them are above 5%. Actually, I did a calculation myself. I do a weighted average of these announcements by each province, weighted by the size of the GDP in each province. It's about 5.4% actually. So I think it's based on these two facts that I'm quite optimistic that might be above 5%. Certainly, I think it should be better than last year. That's my hope. And also, this is something that the central government should be striving for.
In addition to the economy, what other topics of concern do you think will be raised at the press conference today and, of course, throughout the two sessions this year?
I will mention two things. One, of course, is things related to innovation, especially related to AI. China is in the midst of intense competition on the technology and science technology level with the United States, and we're also being boycotted actually on key technologies from Washington. So I think how to not to be left behind, how to close the gap remains a front and center issue for a lot of people in the CPPCC. What's unique about this organization, about this body, is that this is a body full of a lot of highly educated professionals. So these people are really have visions, right? I mean, they have visions and they know what they're talking about. So I think they must be very concerned about that, and I think there are a lot of discussions over that topic. The second thing, of course, is related to environment, related to the transition towards a new energy economy. So I think this has been going on for some time, and China is actually a leader in that regard, and I think we're going to continue to be a leader in that regard. So I think there'll be a lot of discussions about that topic as well.
Just in terms, let's zoom in on the topic of innovation here, because this is a recurring topic really year after year, and we face, of course, a twofold question here. First is China's domestic capabilities to increase its abilities in terms of innovation. The other is external pressure, including the restrictions that you mentioned. How does China go from here?
It's a huge challenge in my view. I think on the domestic front, China has a very unique system. I think President Xi also mentioned this whole of a nation approach towards innovation. This has been proven a success recipe over the years. In the past, if you look at the major breakthroughs, technology breakthroughs in the past, that political system...
Professor, hold that thought. This is such an interesting topic. I do wish to come back to the topic with you later in our special program. But if you're just joining us here on CGTN, the National Committee of the CPPCC is holding a press conference right now. Let's take a look together.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media, good afternoon. The press conference of the second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee now begins. Our spokesperson is Mr. Liu Jieyi, Deputy Secretary General and spokesperson of the second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee. I am Zhou Jiayi, Deputy Secretary General of the second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee. I will be moderating today's press conference. On the further left is Mr. Zhou Beichuan, Director of the Information Department of the CPPCC National Committee. He will help take questions from the floor. I now invite Mr. Liu Jieyi to brief you on the arrangements of the second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee, and then open the floor for questions. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media, good afternoon. Thank you for covering the second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee. It is such a pleasure to see you all. I was told that over 3,000 Chinese and foreign journalists have applied to cover this year's two sessions. Thank you for your interest in the CPPCC session. The press service team of the Secretariat is ready to support your work. 2023 is the first year to fully implement the guiding principles of the 20th Party Congress, and also when the 14th CPPCC National Committee began discharging its duties. Over the past year, guided by Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era, and keenly aware of the significance of two establishings, the CPPCC has enhanced consciousness on four fronts, increased confidence in four aspects, and delivered on the two upholds. We've earnestly acted on the decisions of the CPC Central Committee, leveraged our role as the specialized consultative institution, and carried out in-depth research, consultation, and democratic oversight. All our work has gotten off to a good start, with new contributions to the cause of the party and the country. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China and the founding of the CPPCC. The success of this year's session is of great importance. Entrusted by the Secretariat, I will brief you on this year's agenda. The second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee will open at 3 p.m. tomorrow at the Great Hall of the People and close on the morning of March the 10th, lasting 6 days. The agenda items include to hear and deliberate on the work report of the Standing Committee of the CPPCC National Committee and the report on proposals, to sit in on the second session of the 14th National People Congress, to hear and deliberate on the government work report and other related reports, to deliberate and adopt the political resolution on the second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee, the resolution on the work report of the Standing Committee, the resolution on proposals since the first session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee, and the report on the review of proposals for the second session of the 14th CPPCC National Committee. The session will summarize last year's work of the National Committee and make plans for this year. The CPPCC will carry forward its fine tradition, uphold its political responsibilities, focus on the central and overall tasks, enhance theoretical and political guidance, vigorously make recommendations, build consensus, strengthen capacity building, and open up new prospects for its work in the new era. During the session, there will be opening and closing meetings and 2 conference addresses. Joint group meetings and multiple sector-specific meetings will be held at the hotels where the members are staying. Some sectors will each hold 1 consultative meeting. The opening and closing meetings will be open to foreign envoys in China. All the preparations have now been completed. According to relevant arrangements, in addition to today's press conference, there will be 3 CPPCC members' passage interview events. We've set up virtual interview rooms at the hotels where the members are staying. Our press service team and staff based at the hotels will be ready to help you. Please follow the press center of the CPPCC official website for relevant arrangements, documents, and other information of the session. You are most welcome to cover the session through interviews on site, online, by video link, or by phone. Now I'm ready to take your questions on this year's session and the CPPCC's work. Thank you, Mr. Liu. We'll open the floor for questions. The Q&A session will last about an hour. Please identify your media outlet before asking your question. And please ask no more than 1 question. The floor is now open.
.2023年是14届全国政协履职的第1年，为更好发挥人民政协专门协商机构作用，政协在坚持守正创新、进一步提质增效、加强自身建设等方面做了哪些工作？有哪些亮点？谢谢。
With People's Daily, the 14th CPPCC National Committee started performing its duty last year to better harness its role as a specialized consultative body. What has the National Committee done in breaking new ground, enhancing quality and effectiveness, and strengthening capacity building? What are the highlights? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. 2023 is the first year for the 14th CPPCC National Committee to discharge its duties under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, guided by Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era. The National Committee delivered on the guiding principles of the 20th Party Congress and the second plenum of the 20th CPC Central Committee and stay committed to unity and democracy, to the nature of the CPPCC, and to advancing our work in light of the larger priorities of the party and the country. By breaking new ground and forging ahead in unity, we have gotten off to a good start. First, upholding the CPC's leadership of the CPPCC's work on all fronts. The CPPCC is an organization for the Chinese People's Patriotic United Front, an important CPC-led institution for multi-party cooperation and political consultation, and an important channel and specialized consultative institution for socialist consultative democracy. Keenly aware of the political nature of the CPPCC system and organization, we have stayed committed to the CPC's leadership throughout our work in planning, discharge of duties, and capacity building. We have made it our primary political responsibility to act on General Secretary Xi's instructions and the decisions of the CPC Central Committee. We have improved the inspection mechanism and reviewed our implementation of the important instructions of General Secretary Xi and the important documents of the CPC Central Committee on the CPPCC's work since the 18th Party Congress, to make sure that they are all implemented in letter and in spirit. We've put in place the top agenda item system, where meetings of the leading party members group and of the Chairperson's Council all made it their top agenda item to study the latest remarks by General Secretary Xi and the decisions of the CPC Central Committee, and work out ways to implement those decisions. For example, on studying and delivering the guiding principles of the National Conference on Eco-Environment Protection, the Central Financial Work Conference, and the Central Economic Work Conference, over 60 work plans were formulated. The system of seeking instructions and submitting reports has been strictly enforced to ensure the CPC's all-round, systemic, and holistic leadership of the CPPCC. Second, enhancing the members' political competence and capacity to deliver. The National Committee has taken Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era as the overall guide, made solid progress in the themed education campaign, and cemented the theoretical political foundation. We've carried out regular political training and reading activities for greater theoretical studies. Study sessions for new members, for directors of special committees, and on specific subjects were held to study and deliver Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era and the principles of the 20th Party Congress, and General Secretary Xi's important thinking on promoting the party's united front in the new era and on strengthening the work of the CPPCC. We've improved the members' reading program, which enhanced their political competence, knowledge, and capacity to deliver and make recommendations through their reading and exchanges. We've rolled out opinions on improving theoretical research and deepened research on major theoretical and practical issues, which spurred further learning. Through intense training and regular theoretical studies, the members have gained a deeper sense of the tremendous strength of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era. They have put what they learned into practice, fully acted on General Secretary Xi's important remarks and the decisions of the CPC Central Committee, translated their theoretical studies into greater competence for political consultation, democratic oversight, and participation in state affairs. Third, making recommendations for Chinese modernization. To help achieve Chinese modernization, 94 consultative activities were held on such topics as fostering a new development paradigm, implementing the innovation-driven development strategy, fully advancing rural revitalization, improving the environment of the private sector, building a beautiful China, promoting the Chinese civilization's influence, and improving the political system supporting childbirth. Many suggestions and proposals have become policies for economic and social development. We stressed the fundamental role of research in supporting consultation and carried out 138 research and inspection activities. For example, to ensure a successful subject-specific meeting of the Standing Committee on Fostering a New Development Paradigm and Promoting Chinese Modernization, we conducted 8 specific studies on advancing high-quality development of the private sector and high-standard opening up before the meeting, which eventually produced over 160 interventions. We have set up a subject-specific research system where special research teams, led by Vice CPPCC chairpersons, conduct in-depth research and make proposals on important subjects such as development of the Yangtze River Economic Belt and the treatment of new pollutants. Fourth, improving the institutions, standards, and procedures of the CPPCC. The National Committee earnestly delivered on the decisions of the 20th Party Congress on improving the CPPCC institutions, standards, and procedures, formulated and amended 87 working mechanisms in training, research, consultation, inspection, exchanges, media messaging, reading programs for the members, and capacity building. We have acted on General Secretary Xi's emphasis on the importance of knowing the CPPCC's role of consultation and deliberation, of compliance with discipline and rules, and of integrity. We've enhanced the members' competence and conduct so as to ensure more concrete and effective discharge of duties and fend off pointless formalities and bureaucratism. We've set up the members' contact mechanism to provide better service to them. To build the CPPCC into a stronger political institution, we've held a seminar of CPPCC bodies and 11 seminars of CPPCC officials, advocated the pursuit of excellence in our work, ensured sound education and management of our teams, and worked to build a model institution recognized by the party and the people and enable better discharge of duties by the National Committee. Over the past year, the 14th CPPCC National Committee has earnestly fulfilled its duties. Building on the gains by the previous national committees, we have made new progress and contributed to the cause of the party and the country. Tomorrow, Chairman Wang Huning will deliver a detailed work report on the Standing Committee of the CPPCC National Committee. You're most welcome to follow their event. Thank you.
请东区第3排右起第2位戴眼镜的女记者提问。
谢谢主持人，发言人您好，中国日报记者提问。在过去的一年，新一届全国政协以高质量协商、高水平建言服务中国式现代化。那么，在过去的一年，政协都开展了哪些重点协商议政活动？2024年，全国政协在高质量建言资政、更好的服务发展大局方面有什么考虑和部署？谢谢。
With China Daily. Over the past year, the CPPCC National Committee contributed to Chinese modernization through high-quality consultation and recommendations. Which are the key events of consultation and deliberation? How does the National Committee plan to advance its work this year to better serve the overall development of the country? Thank you.
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your question. The National Committee focused on Chinese modernization and the central work of the party and the country in the new era. We conducted high-quality research as the basis of performing our duty. We engaged in in-depth consultation and deliberation and contributed our share to Chinese modernization with high-quality advice. On the economic front, we held subject-based meetings of the Standing Committee on building a new development paradigm for Chinese modernization, improving sci-tech innovation system to implement the innovation-driven development strategy, and other topics. We made recommendations on expanding domestic demand, building modern industrial system, advancing high-standard opening up, and implementing major decisions in the sci-tech area. Through bi-weekly consultations, we discussed and gave targeted advice on high-quality development of SMEs, R&D of core agricultural breeding resources, and ensuring food security with high-standard arable land. We held quarterly symposium on macroeconomy. On the political front, we had consultations on handling proposals relating to developing consultative democracy in all respects, actively enhancing democracy at the grassroots level, consolidating and developing the most extensive patriotic united front, and improving the socialist legal system with Chinese characteristics to ensure sustained progress. We had consultations and made proposals on ethnic and religious affairs and on Hong Kong, Taiwan, and foreign-related issues. On the cultural front, we had in-depth consultations on enhancing Chinese civilization's appeal and influence, moving faster to build digital museums to preserve China's fine traditional culture, and promoting the study of the origin of the Chinese civilization and the transformation and publicity of its outcome. We provided recommendations on how the Chinese culture can further go global and how to boost cultural self-confidence. On the social front, we deliberated on topics that the public has great interest in, including integrating development of urban and rural areas and rural revitalization, putting in place a policy system supporting childbirth, increasing quality medical resources and their balanced distribution, and accelerating elderly-oriented adaptation. We contributed to addressing these challenges and followed a people-centered development approach. On ecological conservation, we focused on stepping up eco-environment protection and building a beautiful China, building a recycling system of resources of new energy industries at a faster pace, and establishing a value realization mechanism of eco-products, among others, contributing our wisdom to building a beautiful China. This year, the CPPCC National Committee will continue to focus on the goals of Chinese modernization and perform our duty in alignment with the CPC Central Committee's major decisions, major national strategies, and key issues in development. In January, we had a bi-weekly consultation on promoting high-quality development of finance. We will hold subject-based meetings of the Standing Committee, special consultation meetings, bi-weekly consultation meetings, and teleconsultations on building highly developed socialist market economy system underpinning Chinese modernization with high-quality development of population and other topics. As a specialized consultative body, we will make new and greater contribution to building a great modern socialist country and advancing the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation through Chinese modernization. Thank you. Next question, please.
好，我们请中区第3排那位男士提问。
好，感谢主持人。发言人你好，我是中央广播电视总台的记者。那么我们注意到，去年呢，我国国内生产总值比上年是增长了5.2%，可以说主要的预期目标都是圆满完成，而且高质量发展是扎实推进的。另外这2天呢，我们还看到一系列代表着我国宏观经济晴雨表和风向标的这些先行指数也是在陆续的发布。那透过这些数据，其实我们也能够看到中国经济开年以来的韧性和活力。不过也有观点认为呢，中国经济的复苏面临着一些阻力，对此你怎么看？另外，我们想知道政协在助力中国经济高质量发展的过程当中，还能够发挥什么样的作用？谢谢。
With China Media Group, we have noted that China recorded a 5.2% year-on-year GDP growth last year, meeting the target set for the whole year and achieving high-quality development. We are also seeing recently leading indicators have gauged the economy performance. It indicates resilience and vigor of the Chinese economy. However, there are still views that China's recovery is facing headwinds. How do you see it? What has the CPPCC done in boosting China's economic development? Thank you.
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you. Over the past few days, many CPPCC members from different parts of China came to Beijing for this session, and we shared our views with each other that tourism and consumption boom during the Spring Festival was quite notable. Many cities, including Harbin, known as a snow resort, and the ancient city of Kashgar, attracted many tourists. According to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, during the 8-day holiday, 474 million trips were made by domestic tourists, up by 34.3%. The total travel expenditure reached 632.687 billion yuan, up by 47.3%. There was a major increase in both the number of tourists and the money they spent, hitting a record high. This shows that people's demand for a better life entails huge consumption potential and serves as a strong driving force for economic development. CPPCC members follow the economy closely, and the economy has been a priority in our consultation and deliberation. Members all believe that over the past year, under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, we withstood external pressures and conquered difficulties from within. The economy saw a recovery, with major targets of economic and social development accomplished and solid gains in high-quality development. We have made solid steps forward in building a modern socialist country in all respects. Going forward, Chinese economy enjoys strong resilience, huge potential, and great vitality. We have a good foundation and favorable conditions to promote high-quality development. The momentum for long-term growth will further consolidate with a bright future. Focusing on Chinese modernization, the National Committee has conducted consultations and deliberations on macroeconomy and important economic issues, making concrete and effective efforts to promote economic development. First, we studied and followed closely the economic situation and provided reference for science-based and democratic decision-making. The National Committee focused on the growth target of the year and invited members and experts for seminars to analyze economic indicators and understand changes in economic development. We made targeted advice on stepping up and improving macro adjustment and produced special reports. We held quarterly symposium on macroeconomy and had in-depth discussions on steady economic cooperation, fiscal, monetary, and employment policies, and economic issues in the spotlight, providing suggestions on stabilizing market expectations and boosting confidence for development. Second, our efforts were centered on the country's priority and people's concerns and contributed to high-quality development. For example, we held bi-weekly consultations on promoting high-quality development of finance and promoting steady and sound development of the real estate market. We made proposals on forestalling and diffusing risks and stabilizing market sentiments. We reported information on qualitatively new productive forces and high-quality development, which were valued or adopted by relevant departments. Third, our research was problem-oriented to help solve difficulties, blocking points, and challenges in economic development. We carried out special research on high-quality development of the private sector, digital transformation of SMEs, and resilient and secure industrial and supply chains, among others, and applied our research outcomes in various forms. To address risks facing small and medium-sized financial institutions, we visited some small and medium banks, invited companies to exchange views, and made high-quality suggestions as reference for implementing the spirit of the Central Financial Work Conference. We conducted democratic oversight research on improving business environment for foreign investors to help ensure that policies for a better environment to attract more foreign investment were delivered. This year, the National Committee will continue to contribute to economic recovery, engage in consultation and deliberation in various forms on important issues of the economy, actively make suggestions, and build consensus across sectors, thus contributing to high-quality development. Thank you. Next question, please.
请中区第2排靠过道那位女记者。
谢谢主持人。新华社记者提问：发言人您好，我们知道协商民主是践行全过程人民民主的重要形式。人民政协作为专门协商机构，请问在这个方面都开展了哪些工作？谢谢。
With Xinhua News Agency, consultative democracy is an important pathway to delivering whole process people's democracy. What has the CPPCC done on this as a specialized consultative body? Thank you.
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your question. The CPPCC is an important way to advocate socialist democracy and practice whole process people's democracy in China's political life, and an important channel and specialized consultative body for socialist consultative democracy. The National Committee has acted on the important remarks of General Secretary Xi and the 20th Party Congress on whole process people's democracy, diversified forms of consultation, enhanced its quality, made the most of the consultative oversight, and advanced institution building, so that people's voice and will can be reflected in political consultation, democratic oversight, and participation in state affairs. First, we diversified the forms of consultation. We have improved the structure of consultation led by National Committee plenums with subject-specific meetings of the Standing Committee and special consultative meetings as important components, bi-weekly consultations, remote consultative sessions, consultations on proposals by different sectors, with party and government departments, with experts, and on major issues are held regularly. By increasing the frequency of consultations and the scope of participation, we have enhanced the caliber and representation of CPPCC members. Since last year's session, 94 consultations have been held, which involved 5,087 participants and 1,602 interventions, fully reflecting the views and suggestions of the public. Second, we enhanced the quality of consultation. We have made the consultation more in-depth and more problem-oriented, selected topics based on the country's fundamental interests and people's concerns, and made the consultations more targeted. Stressing that research should come before consultation, we have made in-depth research the basis of high-quality consultation, encouraged the members to go to the communities and the people for various forms of research. A lot of the research delved deep into the communities and the countryside for first-hand information from the residents and farmers. Some research stayed focused on one subject, with annual reviews conducted to facilitate follow-up. We've also turned our research into concrete results by submitting such reports as CPPCC information and CPPCC research, so that our recommendations can truly contribute to state governance. Third, we made the most of consultative oversight. We formulated opinions on strengthening and improving democratic oversight, carried out special democratic oversight on the key issues in implementing the 14th Five-Year Plan, produced special oversight reports, and helped implement the decisions of the CPC Central Committee. For example, the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Affairs conducted oversight on strengthening rural sewage treatment for a livable and beautiful countryside. Its main suggestions were adopted by the Ministry of Ecology and Environment. It has also contributed to the opinions on promoting rural domestic sewage treatment. Fourth, we advanced institution building. We have put in place different kinds of institutions, standards, steps, and rules according to the different forms of consultation, improved the mechanism for proposing topics, organizing activities, adopting consultation outcomes and giving feedbacks, and created an interconnected operation process of reasonable procedures. Views and proposals were pulled through standardized institutional arrangements to enable science-based and democratic decision-making and support the role of the CPPCC as a specialized consultative institution. The CPPCC will continue to act on the decisions of the CPC Central Committee to promote whole process people's democracy, build a stronger specialized consultative body, strengthen the system of extensive discussions, make more positive contributions to whole process people's democracy, and ensuring people are the masters of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Market News International. Every year, employment raises concerns. Young people and recent graduates are facing strong competition in the job market. At the same time, some companies are reporting difficulties with regards to recruitment, especially for skilled labor. How can the CPPCC improve the employment situation? Do you have any comments or insight on this matter? Thank you.
美国国际市场新闻社提问：就业问题每年备受关注，年轻人尤其是应届毕业生面临一定就业竞争。另一方面，也有部分企业反映招工难问题，特别是技能人才短缺。请问全国政协在促进就业方面做了哪些工作？有什么意见建议？
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your question. Employment matters to everyone. Employment of the young people, especially the fresh graduates, is of great interest to the people. The CPC Central Committee and the State Council have put employment front and center and have taken a host of specific steps. The various localities and departments have taken multiple measures to stabilize and expand the job market. In 2023, the funding provided by governments at all levels to directly support jobs and startups exceeded 300 billion yuan. Targeted measures were taken to support jobs for college graduates and urban and rural residents living in difficulties. Altogether, 12.44 million new urban jobs were added last year. This is a hard-won result. It also laid a solid foundation for providing sound policies in support of employment and sustaining the good momentum in the job market. The National Committee has worked to help stabilize and promote employment. The CPPCC members and relevant departments conducted in-depth research on promoting high-quality employment, analyzed trends in the job market, and put forth targeted proposals for promoting jobs and entrepreneurship for college graduates, strengthening institution safeguard for flexible employment, spurring job creation through digital economy, and fostering a more equal job market. And a lot of targeted and visionary proposals have been made on all these fronts. 91 proposals have been made, a lot of which were adopted as policies by party and government bodies to resolve problems on the ground. Regarding the difficulties facing both the fresh graduates and the employers, targeted proposals for an interconnected mechanism between universities and industries to help university graduates find jobs were put forth and adopted by competent authorities, contributing to the implementation of relevant policies. Through the program of serving the people, some CPPCC members have engaged in the initiative to bring their businesses to the campus and helped the students with counseling and career planning, and provided internship and job opportunities for the students based on the needs of the companies, contributing to the implementation of employment policies. In response to structural difficulties in both job seeking and hiring, such as the shortage of skilled workers, the CPPCC members have worked with representatives of relevant sectors and departments on subjects including setting up an incentive mechanism for workers with innovative skills, held consultative seminars, and offered recommendations for improving the wage distribution mechanism for skilled talents, enhancing the training of such talents, enforcing the tiered system of vocational skills, and fostering high-standard vocational education system. In 2024, the National Committee will take further steps on stabilizing and expanding employment. For example, we will conduct research on improving the system in support of stable employment of college graduates and have consultations on improving the lifelong vocational skills training system to resolve structural job issues, thus contributing our share to implementing the employment first policy and improving people's well-being. Thank you.
好，下一个问题。
请中区第二排那位外国记者提问。
Good afternoon. I represent Associated Press of Pakistan. China put forward the concept of building a community with a shared future for mankind a decade ago, and since then has carried out successful practice of jointly building the Belt and Road Initiative. For example, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, a pilot project of Belt and Road Initiative, has changed socio-economic landscape in Pakistan. What work has CPPCC National Committee done in this regard in the past year? And what are the plans for 2024? Thank you.
巴基斯坦联合通讯社提问：10年前，中国提出构建人类命运共同体理念，此后在共建“一带一路”等方面进行了成功实践。例如，中巴经济走廊是“一带一路”重要先行先试项目，改变了巴基斯坦经济社会面貌。请问，过去1年，政协做了哪些相关工作？2024年还有什么计划？谢谢。
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your question. Last year marked the 10th anniversary of both the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind and the Belt and Road Initiative put forth by General Secretary Xi Jinping. The past decade has shown that building a community with a shared future for mankind is consistent with the trends of human progress and the interests of all peoples. It has charted the course for a world at a crossroads and has been widely recognized as an important platform for building a community with a shared future for mankind. High-quality Belt and Road cooperation has provided great opportunities for partner countries in achieving common development and improving people's well-being, and notable progress has been made. Just as you mentioned in your question, as an important pioneering project of the BRI, CPAC has brought tangible benefits to Pakistan's development and regional connectivity. Examples abound. For example, the Piraeus port is now the largest port of the Mediterranean Sea after cooperating with Chinese companies. Many tourists take the China-Laos Railway for cross-border tourism, turning Laos from a landlocked country into a land-linked one. The Jakarta-Bantan high-speed rail has led the Indonesian people into the era of high-speed rail. Livelihood projects help people in Africa, Asia, South Pacific, Latin America, and the Caribbean to get access to electricity and drinking water, improve healthcare infrastructure, and reduce rural poverty. In the past decade, the Chinese government signed 240-plus cooperation documents with over 150 countries and 30 international organizations, which led to many cooperation projects, making BRI the largest international cooperation platform and creating broad prospects for high-quality Belt and Road cooperation. To build consensus for a community with a shared future for mankind is the focus of CPPCC National Committee's external work. The CPPCC has coordinated public, people-to-people, and think tank diplomacy. In the past year, we interacted with over 200 agencies from 50 countries, built new connections with 41 foreign think tanks and 12 social groups, invited diplomatic envoys and senior visiting scholars to the CPPCC, established the 14th CPPCC China-Africa Friendship Group, supported the China Economic and Social Forum by China Economic and Social Council on building a community with a shared future for mankind, featuring openness, development, and civilization, to promote the outcomes of the third BRF. Among the diplomats invited to the CPPCC, one ambassador said that in a world of unprecedented changes, we need bridges, not walls. We need more understanding and cooperation, not estrangement or confrontation. The BRI is a bridge for mutual benefit. Indeed, more peoples in different countries have benefited from policy, infrastructure, trade, financial, and people-to-people connectivity through high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, and realized that a community with a shared future for mankind provides not just an idea, but also tangible results. The CPPCC National Committee also hosted bi-weekly consultation meetings on building a high-quality new international land-sea trade corridor, conducted theoretical research on building a community with a shared future for mankind is a vivid example for integrating Marxism with China's realities and its traditional culture, and on the relevance and significance of Belt and Road cooperation. carried out in-depth research on and provided suggestions for green and sustainable development and unity and cooperation between China and other countries, thus contributing to high-quality Belt and Road cooperation and building a community with a shared future for mankind. In 2024, the CPPCC will continue to seek steady progress and break new ground, carry out extensive and in-depth foreign exchanges to make more good friends, so that the world will know both China and the CPPCC National Committee well, contributing to building a community with a shared future for mankind. Thank you. Next question, please.
我们请这边第3排这位记者提问。
谢谢主持人，发言人您好，香港大公文汇传媒集团记者提问：随着澳车北上、港车北上政策实施，经港珠澳大桥口岸进出境的港澳客车数量大幅增加，港澳居民北上消费成为潮流，大湾区1小时生活圈加速形成。就推动大湾区深度融合、协同发展，请问全国政协做了哪些工作？谢谢。
With Ta Kong Wen-wei Group from Hong Kong, since the implementation of policies that allow northbound travel for Hong Kong and Macau vehicles, there has been a substantial increase in the number of passenger vehicles traveling into the mainland through the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Traveling to the mainland for consumption has become trendy among Hong Kong and Macau residents. The one-hour living circle in the Greater Bay Area is quickly taking shape. My question is, what has the CPPCC National Committee done in promoting integration and coordinated development of the Greater Bay Area? Thank you.
Thank you. Before answering your question, I'd like to first share with you some numbers. During this Spring Festival, about 2.52 million trips were made by mainland residents to Hong Kong and Macau, and around 2.49 million trips were made by Hong Kong and Macau residents to the mainland. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridgeport saw a record passenger and vehicle volume. These numbers show vividly how residents of Hong Kong, Macau, and the mainland are visiting each other, and the easy travel, closer exchanges, and robust economy of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area. The Spring Festival is a golden period for Hong Kong and Macau residents to travel and visit families and friends in the mainland. Thanks to the policy of northbound travel for Macau and Hong Kong vehicles, it was easier for people from Hong Kong and Macau to travel to the mainland. Families can drive to the mainland for celebrations like the flower market, New Year shopping, and family and friend reunion to feel the hustle and bustle during the festival. Mainland tourists went to Hong Kong and Macau for fireworks show, float parade, and other celebrations. According to Hong Kong Tourism Association, 80% of hotel rooms in Hong Kong were taken during the Chinese New Year. In the Greater Bay Area, line dance is a popular New Year activity. This year, line dance teams from Hong Kong and Macau came to Zhuhai and danced a Bay Area line together with the Zhuhai line dance team. In carrying forward the traditions, residents of the Greater Bay Area developed a stronger bond of affinity and promoted the integrated development of the area. Among members of the 14th CPPCC National Committee, over 230 are from Hong Kong and Macau. Convenient road networks and efficient customs services have enabled an one-hour life circle in the Greater Bay Area, making their life and work easier. One of them, traveling from Hong Kong to Guangzhou and Shenzhen during the holiday, rightly described the area's development with the idiom 1,000 miles in a day. The Greater Bay Area is a significant national strategy that General Secretary Xi Jinping personally planned and promoted. On 18th February 5 years ago, the CPC Central Committee and the State Council issued the Outline Development Plan for the Greater Bay Area. Over the past 5 years, it has become one of the most open regions with the most robust economy in China. Last April, during his inspection in Guangdong, General Secretary Xi Jinping pointed out that the Greater Bay Area should be a strategic fulcrum of the new development paradigm and play an exemplary role in high-quality development and a leading role in Chinese modernization. Now, the economic output of the area has exceeded 13 trillion yuan. Its patent capacity ranks the top among the 4 Bay Areas of the world, making it one of the most promising growth poles in the world. The CPPCC National Committee always follows closely economic and social development of Hong Kong and Macau, as well as the Greater Bay Area as a whole. We have engaged in consultation and deliberation on the area in various forms. Over the year, members have made suggestions on accelerating market integration, improving compliance system of cross-border flow of financial data, promoting industrial digitalization, and establishing a human resource sharing mechanism across the region. This is aimed at promoting in-depth integration and coordinated development of the area. Members from Hong Kong and Macau conducted research in Guangdong, especially cooperation platforms such as Hengqin, Qianhai, and Nansha, to promote the implementation of the development plan. The National Committee will continue to research on topics, including how to leverage the role of Hong Kong and Macau in building a new system of high-standard open economy, to enhance infrastructure connectivity, rules and systems alignment, and people's bond. The National Committee has vigorously carried out democratic oversight in this regard. We included the implementation of the Greater Bay Area's development plan and suggestions into the 5-year plan of the democratic oversight on the 14th 5-year plan. Since 2021, we have sent delegations and research groups to the area for oversight through inspection and meetings and presented reports to implement the development plan. During these 2 sessions, you're welcome to communicate with members from Hong Kong and Macau to see how the 2 SARs are contributing to the Greater Bay Area and the country's development. We also invite you to visit the area and see for yourselves. Thank you. Next question, please.
请东区第2排靠过道那位女记者提问。
发言人您好，经济日报记者提问：2023年，中央层面不断推出举措，促进民营经济发展。请问这1年来实际成效如何？全国政协在推动民营经济高质量发展方面还做了哪些工作？谢谢。
With Economic Daily, last year, the central government rolled out a raft of policy measures to support the private sector. What progress has been made thus far? What has the CPPCC National Committee done in promoting high-quality development of the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you. The private sector is an important force promoting Chinese modernization and important foundation for high-quality development. It plays an important role in promoting innovation, creating jobs, and delivering a better life to our people. The CPC Central Committee attaches great importance to the development of the private sector and stays committed to the 2 unswervings. Last July, the CPC Central Committee and the State Council issued the guideline on boosting the growth of the private economy. Local governments and departments rolled out supporting policy measures accordingly. These have provided a better environment and stronger legal guarantee for the private sector, promoting high-quality development of the private economy and healthy development of entrepreneurs. Many CPPCC National Committee members are from the private sector. They have first-hand information and understand how the market is doing. They actively relay people's opinion on private sector's development and participate in relevant research, consultation, and deliberation. They also provide suggestions on the healthy development of the sector and on creating an enabling business environment. Over the past year, they felt that policies promoting development of the private sector have addressed real problems and challenges, giving them stronger confidence. As the overall economy is steadily improving, private businesses expect a promising future, and there is much they can accomplish. The National Committee has been following closely the private sector, and it has been a tradition for the CPPCC to facilitate a thriving private sector. Last year, the National Committee conducted special research on high-quality development of the sector. We stayed problem-oriented, worked with local CPPCC and relevant departments, law firm, Chamber of Commerce, and entrepreneurs to pin down the difficulties that private companies faced, including SME financing and access to sci-tech innovation resources, and made proposals on building an equitable protection mechanism for private companies. We explored building a platform for coordinated development of SOEs and private companies. We invited members from both types of companies to conduct joint research and to see what they have to offer each other to help private companies enhance competitiveness and propel their development and growth. Members made many suggestions on improving business environment for private companies and guiding them in their development, contributing to the introduction of relevant supporting policies. Earlier this year, at the Macroeconomy Symposium held by the CPPCC, State Council departments listened to suggestions and communicated with CPPCC members. They covered topics including top concerns of private companies and healthy development of the private sector. The National Committee will conduct democratic oversight inspection on improving environment for the private sector and hold briefings on key concerns, including delayed payments to companies, so as to boost the confidence of these companies and serve the private sector. Thank you. Next question, please.
我们请这边第二排靠过道这位记者提问。
谢谢主持人，发言人您好，我是人民政协报全媒体记者。今年是人民政协成立75周年，75年来，人民政协发挥了哪些作用？今年的政协工作又将聚焦哪些方面呢？谢谢。
With the CPPCC paper, this year marks the 75th anniversary of the CPPCC. What role has the CPPCC played over the past 75 years? What will be the focus of its work this year? Thank you.
Thank you. This year marks the 75th anniversary of both the New China and the CPPCC. The CPPCC has played important roles in every historical period throughout its glorious journey of 75 years. In September 1949, the first plenum of the CPPCC exercised the functions and powers of the National People's Congress, which made full preparations for the founding of New China. After the first MPC session in 1954, the CPPCC continued to engage extensively in China's political and social activities and friendly interactions with other countries, and made great contributions. Since the third plenum of the 11th CPC Central Committee in 1978, the CPPCC has been earnestly implementing the party's theories, principles, and policies, mobilizing all positive factors and rallying all forces that can be rallied. Our efforts have contributed a lot to reform and opening up and socialist modernization. Socialism with Chinese characteristics is in a new era. The CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, has laid out major plans for our work. The CPPCC National Committee has implemented Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, stayed true to its nature, fulfilled its role as a specialized consultative body, acted on the five-sphere integrated plan and the four-pronged comprehensive strategy, focused on high-quality development, and committed itself to the two centenary goals and the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation on all fronts through Chinese modernization. We've made new contributions to the work and the development of the party and the country. In 2024, the CPPCC will adhere to the integration of party leadership, the united front, and consultative democracy, carry forward fine traditions, bear in mind our political responsibilities, uphold overall leadership of the party, and integrate CPC leadership in all of the National Committee's work. We will forge the party's soul with Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, and better translate what we've learned from it into our capacity for political consultation, democratic oversight, participation in state affairs, and into promoting high-quality development by more effectively discharging our duties. We will fulfill our responsibilities with a focus on advancing Chinese modernization, strengthen theoretical and political guidance, offer recommendations, build extensive consensus in our own capacity, so that we can pool wisdom and strength for achieving this year's economic and social development goal. Thank you. For the interest of time, now we'll take the last question.
请第一排，我对面这位女记者提问。
谢谢主持人。发言人您好，中新社记者提问。我们关注到2023年全国政协创新开展了委员履职服务为民活动，受到广泛好评。可否请发言人为我们介绍一下这项活动取得了哪些具体成效？谢谢。
With China News Service. Last year, the CPPCC National Committee initiated a program that has enabled its members to better serve the people. It is widely acclaimed by the people. Could you please share with us the progress made through this program? Thank you.
Thank you. Stay committed to fulfilling duties in the interests of the country and the people. Members must help provide urgently needed assistance, reduce poverty, clear up misunderstandings, allay grievances, and address people's concerns in the sectors they represent. These are what General Secretary Xi Jinping has entrusted our members to do. The CPPCC has implemented this important requirement, promoted people-centered development, committed itself to serving the people, and initiated the series of events for that purpose. Over the past year, we carried out about 2,500 such events, actively responded to people's concerns, public opinions, solved most pressing difficulties, and built broad consensus. During the process, we translated the wisdom drawn from the people into concrete actions. First, we focused on hot economic and social issues and took practical steps to help people solve problems. For example, we visited local areas and enterprises to really look into their problems in employment, recruitment, financing for private companies, and helped solve these difficulties. We deeply engaged with people and came up with suggestions and concrete measures for protecting black soil, establishing recycling systems for renewables to boost people's confidence in career advances. Second, we focused on small but key matters to be accessible to the people. For example, we helped people in old revolutionary bases and underdeveloped areas solve problems including lack of development fund, market information, and scientific and technical support. We provided targeted assistance for them. We also worked for people's well-being by inviting companies led by CPPCC members to campuses and organizing healthcare, sports, cultural, and SNT events at the grassroots level. Last year, 11 CPPCC members visited 10 cities in 4 provinces and hosted 28 science lectures on life science, the mysteries of the universe, quantum theories, nanomedicine, and so on. They explained profound theories with simple language and were very well received. Some students said the CPPCC members have made difficult knowledge simple and interesting. Some young scientists said, the devotion of scientist members of the CPPCC has made me more determined in pursuing my own career in science. Lectures by these members not only promoted science knowledge, but also the spirit of pursuing truth in science, which contributed to improving scientific literacy in China. Third, we focused on explaining policies and building broad consensus. With matters about national development and concerns of our people in mind, our members visited local areas and communities, engaged deeply with people at grassroots level, and shared with them the latest achievements of adapting Marxism to the Chinese context and the needs of our times, the major policies and plans of our party and country, and explained the policies and measures to people from all walks of life. Members from Hong Kong and Macau visited more than 300 schools in the region and shared with them traditional Chinese culture and the development and changes of the mainland. These events helped boost confidence and enhance our common intellectual foundation. In 2024, the CPPCC National Committee will continue to focus on major decisions and plans of the CPC and the country and the concerns of people, carry on with the program of serving the people to solve problems and bring tangible benefits for people, play an active role in improving people's sense of ownership, happiness, and security. Thank you. For the interest of time, this is the end of today's press conference. Thank you, Mr. Liu. Thank you, friends from media. Thank you, interpreter. This is the end of the press conference. See you next time.
A press conference there with the CPPCC National Committee held at the Great Hall of the People right here in the heart of Beijing. Many areas and topics were covered. Let's continue our discussion with my studio guest here, Jiang Gong. Professor, thank you so much for staying with us throughout that press conference. A lot of ground was covered, everything from whole process, people's democracy, to building a shared community for mankind. In answering these questions, the spokesperson really laid out how the CPPCC conducted its work and how the CPPCC made these achievements possible by working such as political consultation, deliberations, research groups, visiting local enterprises. Can you share with us, first of all, the highlights of the press conference? What stood out for you?
Yeah, okay. Well, altogether 10 questions asked. I just counted 6 of them are from domestic journalists, 3 of them from foreign journalists, including Hong Kong, and 1 is actually from CPPCC's own new media journalist. A lot lot of questions about the economic performance things related. I counted about at least 4 questions related to economics, asking question about the GDP growth, economic performance, unemployment raised by a foreign journalist, promotion of the private sector, and also the issue about the Greater Bay Area integration. And I think these are all great questions. There's also, I was a little bit surprised the extent of work CPPCC has been doing in areas of foreign policy, foreign relations. I didn't know much about that, actually. He actually mentioned some statistics. He said that they have interacted with over 200 agencies abroad, 41 foreign think tanks, and there's some work that has been done about regarding China-Africa relations, economic relationship. I think these are very important works that this organization has been doing in the past. I think a lot of questions are related to what have you done, what this organization has done in terms of things related to these agendas, things we've just mentioned. And I think probably a lot of people don't know much about what the actual things that this organization has been done. Other than it's a consultative body, it's an advisory body, but I think at the end of the day we get to learn a lot of the concrete matters the members of CPPCC has been engaged in. Especially the last question was talking about the small little but still critical things. As I said, this body has a lot of highly educated people with high caliber, and they've been contributing to the better governance, the better construction of this country in various matters. And I think this organization has indeed played an important role in China's political life.
I mean, the CPPCC highly relies on these people you mentioned, elites of their profession, to really feel the pulse of a specific and individual sector here. 4 out of 10 questions are about the Chinese economy, which shows such an incredible interest in how the Chinese economy both has fared last year and what is going to happen this year. In terms of an outlook, some of the reporters mentioned headwinds faced by the Chinese economy, obviously many challenges to tackle in 2024. What will be some of the more thorny issues concerning the Chinese economy?
Well, I think the speaker sounds quite upbeat. He mentioned the statistics during the Spring Festival.
Tourism
statistics, yeah. So I think at least from their perspective, they seem to be quite optimistic. I think there are some reasons to be optimistic, as he has mentioned a couple of them. I think in terms of the headwinds you asked about, I think the major issue has really to do with the private sector. Thank goodness there's one question actually raised about promotion of the private sector, asked by the journalist from the Economic State, I think. And I think this is a very good question. How to incentivize private investment, how to make sure that the private sector are confident about investment, how to make sure that they keep investing in this country. I think these are very important questions. I think a couple of challenges being discussed so far, typically in the media these days. One related to consumption inadequacy, one related to investment, one related to the real estate property market, and I think after these three things, I think the most important thing is really the investment from the private sector, the confidence of the investors from the private sector. And I think, I think the jury is still out there, that whether this is going to be improved or not. At least I think the CPPCC has been doing its fair share of work in promoting private investment here in China.
And we still got some time, so let's delving a little bit deeper here. Talking about confidence, obviously what we've seen over the Spring Festival, tourism numbers, consumption numbers really gave us that boosting confidence we need at the start of the year. But we obviously need confidence to sustain throughout 2024, confidence from investors, as I mentioned, confidence from consumers. We still have that domestic consumption at a level where we're not too happy about. We want that to go up this year. And of course, confidence from foreign investors, right. Obviously another issue here. How do we go about sort of just boosting the overall confidence level up? What are the specific things that could happen, Professor?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think, I think first of all, let me say that the consumer confidence is starting to come back. The clear signs that indications that it's coming back, and the recent statistics have been showing that. In terms of investor confidence, I keep thinking about two things. One is that, why we ask this question: why do investors invest? I think first of all, they feel like there's an economic prospect that the economy is going to perform well, and it's going to have implications for my investment. That's the first thing. Second thing I think has to do with the sense of security for the private investors, the sense of protection from a intellectual property rights perspective, from security of the funds, from the perspective of a fair and a just system. I think these are very important issues. There's a lot of false narrative, in my view, about China's investment environment, and I hope what the government can do is to take actions to debunk and demystify these false narrative. I think China still remains to be a fairly investable place. We talk about what's going to be the next China. Next China is still next China. It's still China, right? So I think it's in these areas that the government needs to do a lot of things to convince investors, especially I think the private sector.
What about trade, Professor? Can you shed light on that as well? Because last year we saw the scarring effect from the pandemic gradually wear off, and trade numbers started to come back up, but they're probably not at a level that is satisfactory to economists and to economy watchers here. How do you think trade will fare this year?
Yeah. China recorded a very small increase, 0.
Half than 1%.
Yeah, about half percentage point of increase in exports last year, which is actually not bad at all against the backdrop of overall global trade actually receding. I think Chinese exports are still very competitive, but the challenge is really the macro environment, the macroeconomic environment, the geopolitical environment. These are the big challenges. I think the global trade is undergoing a profound change. We didn't talk too much about the two wars going on right now. Thank goodness, we are enjoying peace here in China. But these things do have implications on Chinese exports, on China's economy as well. So I think. But overall, I'm still very optimistic. I'm a strong believer in the private sector in China, in Chinese corporate China's competitiveness on international markets. So I think especially in these high-end products, the products of the emerging technologies. Chinese companies are doing very well. So I still think that trade and especially exports are still very competitive, and I hope that we're going to see a little bit of an increase next year. And also, I would even argue that even amid the global restructuring of trade, as a result of the geopolitical situation, as a result of the two wars going on, we stand to benefit a lot from trade with these countries that are being sanctioned by the West. Trade with Russia is booming. I'm projecting something close to $300 billion of total trade this year for 2024. We're very close to $250 billion. Russia is rapidly becoming China's second largest trading partner, surpassing Japan and South Korea. So I think there are bright spots, but overall it's a very tough, very challenging environment, internationally speaking.
When we talk about being proactive with economic recovery, there are things that you can control, and there are things that are out of control and hard to predict. You mentioned some of the external pressure that's been imposed here on China. In 2024, what are some of those external pressure that you'll be looking for? Geopolitical conflicts, restrictions by the West on China's technological innovation, the whole chip situation here, and what are some of the factors that you will be closely monitoring in 2024?
Yeah, I think I am most concerned about the prospect of whether China is going to be lagging behind in rapidly developing technologies such as AI. such as things related to or constrained by the semiconductor business. We know that China is being heavily sanctioned by the United States in these areas. Whether it's going to cause a profound long-term impact, that's a serious issue of big concern to me. I don't know whether the gap in big modeling, for example, in AI, is going to keep widening or keep being closed. So I think these are the primary issues that I'm very concerned about. I think overall, Chinese companies are very innovative. They are very entrepreneurial. People are working very hard, but sometimes these critical technologies are being choked, and it's going to have a long-term impact. How quickly, how closely we can close that gap with the United States remains a challenging question in my view.
I mean, we talked about this independence for a number of years now, but it's not something that can be achieved in a very short period of time. So it's likely a repetitive topic that will come up in the two sessions for the years to come. I think I just have time for one last question, Professor. There was a question at the press conference about the employment situation. And unemployment rate with the younger population is down. What contributed to that improvement, and do you see that, sustain or change in 2024?
Well, I think the unemployment figure is getting better primarily because of the recovery of the economy, especially in the service sectors. There are a lot of jobs being created in the service sectors. But I think over the long run, there are some factors on our side which are beneficial to a better unemployment figure, which is China's demographic development. In other words, where the population is starting to decline, and so there can be less of a pressure on creating new jobs. On the other hand, I think the economy is also going through a very profound structural change in terms of essentially machines replacing people, to be honest with you. AI technologies are rapidly developing, displacing a lot of jobs, and it's a race in my view, how quickly the labor market can adjust to this rapidly changing phenomenon, whether new jobs will be created as a result of this structural change, as existing jobs are being lost. And I think these are big challenges. It calls for reform in our education system. It calls for people taking a long-term, more of a sort of insightful approach towards a future career development path. So these are important issues, and we have to see. Hopefully, one thing I want to emphasize is that history never fails human beings. Every time when it comes to a moment like this, people will all be saying, machines are replacing people, right? But every time, history has told us that more jobs are actually created for new careers, for new paths, as opposed to sticking towards. We don't want to act like Luddites fighting against the old world. It's a new world rapidly ascending upon us. Maybe in the future our jobs will be replaced. So who knows?
Well, let's hope that machines will only replace jobs and not people, because new professions and new jobs obviously are created in that process. Yeah. Professor, thank you so much for staying with us today. We appreciate you as always. And this year's session of the CPPCC will open in Beijing on Monday. It marks the beginning of the most important annual event on China's political calendar, the two sessions. We'll have everything you need to know about the two sessions and news and discussions on that agenda. I'm Zhong Shi on behalf of the entire team here in Beijing. Thank you so much for your company.